The layout of this presentation is going to be supplies and personnel. So if I want to have a meet, where do I need to have at my platform? Some pre-meet housekeeping. What documentation do I need to send to the schools that are coming? How do I get them entered into my scoring software? Then meet day, running the meet. And then at the end of the meet, my meet's done. I'm going to submit my meet, get it sent up to the office so we can see it, and then post it on the website for standings. So first step, what supplies do I need? Your basic supplies per platform. Okay. Now, real quick before we get rolling, guys, this presentation is really going to be. We did the rules last time, so we're not going to go over any rules. This is just the logistics of the meet and things that we kind of glazed over last time. So, basic supplies per platform. I need a 45-pound barbell with a center knurl, right? At least 2.5 plates, 2 of them. At least 2 5s, 4 10s, 2 25s. Roughly 10 45s per platform. Use your discretion there. If you're having 3 platforms running and you know you're going to have your 97s through your 132s, you don't have to have 10. It's best practice to have it there. But if you need to distribute that around the platforms, around your meet, that's 100% just fine. Just make sure that you're going to have enough for your projected numbers there. 100-pound plates. If you want to have those, great. If not, you don't have to have those either. They save a lot of time. Coach, I'm gonna mute your deal here, Coach Martinez. They save time. It's a lot easier to load those on there. If you have them, great. You don't have to have them. And then obviously a collar or clamp. Negligible is what you're going to see most. If you have 2.5 pounds or a 5-pound clamp, make sure to adjust for that on your load sheet. Then you obviously need a bench and a squat rack. Those are the basics. What else do I need on the platform? I need a weight tree, a load chart. We have one available on the website for you to use if you want it. If you want to find one online, that's just fine, or tailor yours towards your meet, that's fine. But again, under helpful documents on the website, we have a load chart that's available for you to use. Judging flags, you're going to need some type of exchange zone flags. Lights, if you've got them, are great. Sticks, rulers, whatever you've got to sew white or red work just fine. A wire brush, judge chairs, and then disinfectant spray. So make sure you have that at each platform. Definitely the disinfectant spray, especially during deadlift if a kid's lifting and there's blood on the bar. Definitely want to stop the platform, wipe it off, and then continue to go. So again, when you're planning your meet, if you have all this stuff, you're good to go. Remember, the optional stuff are those 100-pound plates, and then everything else you probably want to have on there. I've got a few questions on the deadlift. So if you're hosting in a gym or an indoor with turf or something like that where the subfloor needs protection, this is what you're going to want to have. You want to have at least 4 3/4-inch plywood sheets and 2 stall mats. Okay. In my experience, what I've seen is you lay both plywoods horizontal or vertical, doesn't matter. And then you stack up the other ones on top, and then you lay the horse stall mats on top. And that's more than enough protection for any gym floor. And if you don't have those things, if you really want to disassemble your Olympic platforms, which is what we did for the state meet, you can do that. You're going to disassemble everything, put it where you want on the gym floor, and then reassemble it. Okay. Again, those also have more than enough protection for any gym floor, for any turf setting. You might want to also put stall mats on top of that also. The big reason, so they're not slipping, especially if a kid has a really wide sumo stance. They're not half on wood and half on rubber. If you have the stall mats, it just covers that base. Definitely lay the tarp down before you lay all that stuff. Okay, so I get the tarp laid down, I get all this stuff put on the floor, and then I'm ready to go. Again, if you're using Olympic platforms, I would suggest getting some stall mats just to put on top of it for a little extra protection. But again, is more than enough protection, either option you choose. If you're using stall mats and plywood, screw them together before the meet. Okay, just so that you're not messing with it throughout the meet if they move around. Definitely do that. And you really want to emphasize in your pre-meet, if a kid drops the barbell on the deadlift, they're disqualified immediately. And you have to stress that to your coaches, because at the end of the day, your AD is sitting there watching this meet and you're on their gym floor. And if somebody sits there and drops the weight on, again, it's enough protection for it, but nobody wants to see, 3, 4, 500 pounds being dropped on their gym floor. So you need to stress that to your coaches. If a kid does that, they're just going to get immediately ejected, and we'll go from there. So any questions on that? I got some pictures here for you just to take a look at if you're planning on doing that. Picture on the left is exactly what we talked about. You've got the plywood, you have 4, and then he's got the stall mats. And then you can see in the background the tarp, and then this is all on the gym floor, okay? Same thing with this meet. It looks like they neglected the stall mats in this one, and they just did the plywood. Again, that's enough protection for it. Again, I would suggest using the stall mats, but again, this is all on the gym floor. You've got your tarp here, and then you can see the gym floor in the background, and everything's just fine. This one, they went kind of fancy, and they kind of rounded off the edges here. But again, they got 4 pieces of plywood, and they have their stall mats there. And that's how you'd set that deadlift platform up in the gym. My suggestion would be to set this all up before, put your squat racks on top of it so you don't have to set this up later. That would be my suggestion. Any questions on the deadlifts? I know I got a few questions this week about that. Before I move on, is there any questions on how to set that up?
I do, Coach.
Yes, sir.
I'm planning on using deadlift platforms that we ordered.
Oh, great.
Do you recommend anything underneath that?
Well, you gotta.
We're going to run a tarp.
Where'd you get them from? The platforms.
Rogue.
Oh, those are nice ones. Shoot, you're probably good, Coach. I mean, those are heavy duty stuff. I definitely put the tarp down, and you guys are probably good to go. Just again, make sure in that pre-meeting to stress to the coaches, and maybe even in your meet letter, do not drop the weight.
Okay.
But yeah, that's awesome. Holy cow, that's great. That's pretty fancy.
Cool.
Sweet. Any other questions? Okay, so you got your materials. This is how it looks, right? And now I put 3 different scenarios here. The one on the left works pretty well. The one in the middle, you see a whole lot of the score table in the front. And then the one on the far right is what we did at our state meet. And the only reason we did that was because the projector was on the table and had to project on something. So that's how we set it up. Again, this PowerPoint is really just designed for you guys to take it, split screen it and start planning your meet out. Now, hopefully this clears up a little bit of the confusion on the judges for this year. So, and really moving forward too. So the head judge is really set to roam. Okay. Their job is to make sure that the technicalities of the meet are being followed. Your platform judges this year can be anybody who's taking the exam. They don't have to go to that rules clinic that we did earlier. They don't have to come to this meeting. They just have to take the exam. It's this person's job to train them, whether that's the day before or in your pre-meet meeting, to talk to these officials and kind of teach them how to do this. And the big thing here is we're building a pool of judges that the first meet's going to be a little rough, and that's okay, but they got one under their belt and then they'll get better. And so that's the big piece that I want to stress here, is that these don't have to be these highly qualified judges right now. Okay. These can be coaches, they can be volunteers. As long as they've taken the exam, they can be your chief or your side judges. Your head judge is taking the responsibility of overseeing this. And for instance, if let's say this head judge is roaming back and forth, the meet's going smooth, but platform 1 is judging really, really high, just go have a conversation with that platform. Don't penalize the kids for that, but talk to the judges and say, hey, guys, you guys are judging pretty high. Remember we talked about in the meeting, and then go from there and continue to meet. Now, this is where we have got a pool of officials that are really experienced. If you want to use one of them, let me know and I'll put you in contact with those officials. Again, this is not required this year. If all the coaches in the meet have done all these trainings, you don't have to have a head judge this year. Okay, that could technically be all those head coaches that should know the rules because they've attended all these trainings. So what do you need at your score table? Your personnel, you're gonna need 1 expediter. They're announcing. They're saying, 14's up, 3's on deck, and 6 is in the hole. And then you've got a marshal or a scorer. I would suggest having 2 of these. You can have one if they're a stud. All they're going to do is they're going to reorganize the cards. They're going to put each attempt in the computer. So again, I would suggest two. But if you have one person that can do that, great. I think I went to last year, I think Highland did a duel and they had one person doing it, which was great. She was plugging them in, reorganizing, and then had another girl come and chip in later. But again, that's up to you how you want to do that. Some type of projector, screen, or whiteboard so you can show this current standings. Then you have the expediter cards, laptop with a scoring system, and then obviously some pens, dry erase markers. And you also want to think about your spotters and your loaders. Okay, a lot of these times it's going to be the kids that really aren't your varsity or your A lifters. A lot of times they'll be your B lifters, or just shoot the football team that's not participating in powerlifting. Have them come help out and be your spotters and loaders for that meet. Just some things to think about. Also, at the end of the day, I don't want to say one of the good things that came out of COVID, but we were allowed to have our lifters be the spotters, which was helpful too. So I know they didn't want a lot of people mingling within different teams and so on and so forth. So they said, hey, as long as your lifters can spot your kids, we're good. And so if you have your lifters spotting each other, that's just fine too. Just as the judges, make sure they're not helping each other gain an advantage or anything like that. This is what that looks like. Again, you've got your chief and your side judges. Those could be anybody that have taken the exam. They have to take the exam though. So like Coach Martinez was saying, I'm going to send that form to you as a meet director. You're going to submit that with your chief and side judges. That's confirming that they've taken the exam. And when I assign them in Dragonfly, I'll be able to see if they've taken that exam. So make sure they've taken the exam. And then you've got your head judge and then your expediter and your marshals. So again, just a visual. I'm a visual person, so I put a lot of visuals in here. So if you want to copy one of these and this is how you want your meet to look, great. Again, at the end of the day, this is your meet. You take it and run with it. This is an example of a 3-platform meet, what it looks like. This was a pretty big one. They had 6 platforms rolling. This is what that looked like. Again, I really want you to use this PowerPoint as your checklist. This is what we did at the state meet. We ran 4 platforms. This was a setup there. Again, just copy and paste. Or if you do it in a weight room, this is what that looks like. So this was a duel that we had done. It was kind of during the height of the pandemic. We did this duel. That was another thing that they started allowing was duels. And that's one thing that we took and ran with is that we are allowed to have duels now. And that's a great thing because it expands the opportunity for kids. And so in this duel, what we did, we had an even number of boys and an even number of girls. We had a small weight room, but we made it happen. So I did girls on one platform, boys on the other platform. And I put these pictures in because we had our assistant coaches. You had 2 assistant football coaches. And then you had Everman's head powerlifting coach was the chief judge at this platform. And to make it even on the boys' side, we had 2 Everman assistant coaches that again, all these coaches had taken the test. And then you had our athletic director was the chief judge at that platform. And then I would kind of I would help him out. I'd give him a break and so he could coach his kids. And then that's what we did. We set up our projectors and screens in the back of the weight room because that's what we had room for. And so the kid would do the lift. They'd go check in with the table. They'd give them their next attempt. And then they'd go wait in the locker room for us to call them up for the next attempt. And so really flexible guys that you use what you can. You do what you have. If you have a big, humongous weight room like Lovington, the way they set theirs up, they had 5 platforms running and they did a great job this past weekend. If you have a small weight room like this and you want to have them boys and girls on each side, you're more than welcome to do that. Any questions there? And here in this picture, you can see we had one of our lifters. We were short one spotter. He came in and he helped out and we were good to go. Okay, so that's the general setup of your meet. The next part of this is pre-meet housekeeping. So you're the meet director. How do I get started? And if you're a track coach or a wrestling coach or a swim and dive coach, you're probably pretty well versed in this, but this will just be kind of how to tailor those meet flyers to powerlifting. So what do? I need to send my meet flyer out to my participating schools. Okay, I need to gather the name and the number of participants from each school along with their projected weight class. Collect and register openers from the participating lifters at the same time to save time on meet day. What I would suggest is getting that done at least a week before the meet. 3 days of pushing it, but it's also could be done. And then after you get all your lifters, you're going to create flights based on the number that you're projecting. Okay. So there's some things to think about. How many platforms do you plan on having? What's the maximum number that you can facilitate? So I know it's nice to say yes to everybody if they're asking, but at the end of the day, if you can only realistically have 2 platforms and you have 100 people, 200 people that are trying to get in your meet, you might need to put a cap on it and tell some people no. Or you just add another platform and then you try to figure it out. Are you using judges in-house or are you looking for third-party judges? Okay, those are things to think about when you're hosting your meet. Your meet flyer examples, this is, again, copy and paste. Make this as cool as you want to or as basic as you want to, whatever gets the job done. You want to make sure you have your itinerary on there. And this was a really nice one. It was really helpful. It had the registration boxes there. So I just printed this out, filled it out, and then submitted that back to the host school. And they got those input into the system. I believe this one was, they wanted this a week in advance. And so really helpful. This was a meet flyer without that, which is okay. They just wanted all the entries put in the email at least a week before the meet. And so we wanted to put in the first name, last name of our lifters, projected weight class, and then the openers, right? Squat opener, bench opener, deadlift opener. So we can preload all that into the system. Again, copy and paste. Use this if you need to. If you want to make your own, 100%, more than welcome to do that. These are just examples. Okay, PowerScore. So PowerScore is a really efficient software for high school because it takes into consideration the scoring system. It takes into consideration multiple platforms and a lot of lifters. So when you export your meet for results, you have to use PowerScore. Now at your meet, I would highly suggest using this at each platform. You don't necessarily have to, but I think you'll find once you start using it, you'll want to use it as much as you can because it really keeps you organized and it keeps the meet flowing. I don't want to waste your time today going over step-by-step tutorials on PowerScore. So on these links, it's a YouTube videos that's got quick bites, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2 minutes, how to create your meet, how to export your lifters, how to input your lifters, how to do the scoring system and all this stuff. That's all broken down for you in PowerScore 101. There's like 10 videos there. What I would suggest is when you're ready to input your meet, you have that on one screen, you've got your PowerScore, your blank PowerScore on the other, and then just go through the videos and knock it out. It's a pretty simple software once you figure out how to use it. But again, those tutorials are there for you. We're not going to go through those here. And then you've got your PowerScore Advanced, which is how do I run PowerScore on multiple platforms and merge them into the master computer. So once you get a kind of general feel of PowerScore on one platform, that's the next step. If I got 4 platforms, I'm going to want to run PowerScore on each platform and then merge it into the master meet so that I can get real-time data. And that's how you do that. There's links there how to do it. Again, digestible bits. There's the first one's a long one, an 8-minute video. Then after that, it's quick 2-minute headers on how to use PowerScore. PowerScore is a Texas software that the guy adapted it to New Mexico. And that was done. He finished it, finalized the final version of that today. And so tomorrow when our computer guy's here, we'll have him upload that to the website. And then if you're hosting a meet, I would go in and download the New Mexico version when it's available, just to start playing with it. And then again, those tutorials are there for you if you need them. Flighting. So I've got my lifters in. I've got a ton of lifters. I don't want to sit there and just do one flight if I've got a bunch, because then that kid does squat and they're waiting a good amount of time before they get their second attempt. So once you're at that 10 to 20 range, start thinking about adding another flight. So anything over 20, I've been to a lot of meets that have 20, 25 lifters. It takes a good while. So if you don't have to do that, don't do it. But again, in the rule book, we have a little suggestion that says when 10 or more lifters are competing in a rack, you'll form flights consisting of approximately equal numbers if you can. Again, I would probably do this by weight class, not so much by gender, unless you have an exact equal amount gender, boys and girls, then go ahead and do it by gender. But if not, I would do it by weight class. Again, visual. This is what we did this past year. Take it and run with it. Adapt it to what you have. You know, if you have 2 platforms, adjust it. Again, you don't have to have 4 platforms. You can have 1, 2, up to 6, whatever you want, whatever you feel comfortable doing. But again, plug your numbers into this and it should help. Any questions on flighting your meat? Great. Real quick, any questions on the pre stuff? Okay, I got setting my meat flyers. Again, that's all up to you guys. You know, these are all just suggestions. These are here for you if you need them. Make it your own. But before I move on to the meat days, are any questions here? Perfect. Okay, so this is the order of events on meat day. You have your weigh-ins. You want to have a judges meeting, and that's after weigh-ins are done. Coaches meeting, and then the last thing, bars are loaded. That means the meat's starting. Okay, and we're going to break these down really quickly each. Again, we went over a lot of this in the rules clinic, but we'll spend a little time on this here. So weigh-ins, you have your expediter cards. The nice thing about PowerScore, when you get all your registrations in, there's a tutorial on the YouTube playlists how to batch print everything. Okay, so you don't have to go through and actually manually put these in. If you want to do that, great, you can do it. If you have a ton of lifters, I would highly suggest that batch print button. That's again, the tutorials will show you exactly how to do that. You'll press batch print. It's going to print everything out, name of the kids, the school, projected weight class. And then if you want to check the openers on that batch print, you can also auto-populate all the openers on there also. So what you're going to do is you got your expediter cards. What I would suggest is separating those out by school the night before. And so when school A arrives, you give them all their cards. School B arrives, you give them all their cards. If you haven't put openers in, the athletes go and fill in their openers. Then they go in to weigh in. They're going to hand those cards over to the weigh-in administrator, whoever's doing weigh-ins. They're going to weigh in. The administrator is then going to fill in the body weight portion of that card, and they're going to keep it. Okay, so the lifter does not get their card back. So at that point, their openers are pretty much locked in. They can't change anything because the administrator has the card. As the meet director, if you have a really large meet, what I would suggest doing is as weigh-ins continue to happen, take the completed cards, put them at the assign rack, and then start putting them into the software. Okay, so right when weigh-ins are done, everything should already be input. You don't have to spend X amount of time putting all that stuff in. You're doing it kind of running. Any questions on that piece right there? Again, those are one of those things that you're just going to kind of have to go through it. But again, as the weigh-ins happen, take those cards, put them at the assign rack, start putting and sorting them. Next piece is the judges meeting. What I would suggest here, Heather, what's up?
Just before they give their cards to whoever's collecting them, they should also get their rack height, and get it on the card prior to giving it away.
100%. Yeah. And thanks for reminding me, Heather. That's a big piece is when your kids get to your meet, all the platforms should be set up. Okay. So the kids can go in there and fill with the pin height they want. And you should number those on the sides of the platform or on the sides of the rack, whether at 1 through 4 or 4 through 1, whatever your system is. But whatever they feel comfortable, they're going to put that here in that pin number. And so what that does is when the meet's running, the judges and the loaders can then adjust the rack accordingly based off of what they put in for their pin number. So yeah, Heather, thanks. And that'd be something you want to do prior to weigh-ins. You're right. So I walk in, my kids go check their pin height, they write that down, then they go start the weigh-in process.
Is there a designated rack that we're using, or is it just any kind of power rack?
No, it's going to be any, coach, whatever you've got. If it's a cage, great. If you have a legitimate powerlifting rack, great. But again, as long as it's safe and it's adjustable, we're good.
Kind of going back to that platform, are we using like a carpet on there or anything like that, or is it just going to be the straight
what our rule book says is it's a non-slip surface. Again, what I would suggest is using those pieces of plywood and stall mats. And if you're using an Olympic platform, lay the stall mats on top of those or screw those in. If you have an Olympic platform, if you want to put carpet on there, that's just fine too. You can go in and I've seen that too, where they wrap carpet around it. And at the high school level, you're more than welcome to do that also, for sure.
Yeah, the reason why I say it's because, you know, the sweat and everything like that, you know, so that comes all into play.
100%. Yep. Again, you make this your own. So in that judges meeting, make sure you go over the commands, okay? Go over the basic rules and really just go over the key points here and read your room. If you have a bunch of brand new judges, take a little time with this. If you have a bunch of well-versed judges, just go over the key points so you're on the same page. And then a discussion of the common disqualifications for each lift, the apparel, what's legal, what's illegal. Make sure that, you know, our kids are all there before they step on the platform, their shirts are tucked in. Next year, make for their singlets, make sure that they're wearing a legal singlet, not wearing a squat suit or briefs or anything like that. You're going to have that discussion. And then what's the expectation for the spotters and loaders? And then we also put together this form here. Again, it's one of those things that use it if you want. I would highly suggest using this. It's already there for you. You just sit there, pull this sheet out and go through each piece there. Add to it what you need to, take out what you want. But again, it's got a format for you for your pre-judges meeting. So you have your judges meeting, then bring all your coaches into the meeting room also, or whatever part of the weight room or gym that you're having this at. And I would suggest having the coaches in there with the judges if you do have third-party judges, just so everybody hears the same message. And in that coaches meeting, you want to go over meet logistics. So who's allowed on the floor? How do we access the floor? Where's the warm-up room? Or if you don't have a warm-up room, how are we warming up? Are we taking 10 minutes prior to the flight to warm up? It happens quite a bit. So communicate all that in that meeting so everybody's on the same page and nobody's confused. The meet itinerary, you definitely want to go over that. You know, do we have a Pledge of Allegiance or a national anthem? Are we breaking for lunch? Where are we going to post the results and when? And then awards, are we having that? If not, if we do, what's the format? If not, you know, what's the process of saying this kid won and so on and so forth? And then behavior expectations for everybody, for the parents, the kids, and the coaches also. How are the coaches talking to the judges? How are the kids talking to the judges? What's the expectation there? And then you turn over the head judge, or if you are the head judge there, lifter apparel. Okay, you probably want to have that part of the rule book out. Again, what's legal, what's illegal, and communicate that with the coaches. A quick basic rule review. And then behavior expectations. How are the coaches communicating with the judges, and what's going to be permitted, and what's going to be grounds for some type of disciplinary action on that also. And again, you've got the link there. It's the same one. It's got a quick, it's almost like a quick little lesson plan. If you just want to take that and use it, you're more than welcome to. I would highly suggest that until everybody starts getting comfortable with these meetings. And then again, just make them your own. Any questions here? All right, so we did all the pre-stuff. The day of the meets started. You got weigh-ins, you got all your meetings in. Now it's time to run your meet. Remember the round system. You should have already grouped and organized your weight class by flights, and so that's already set up on the platforms. You're going to use the expediter cards to organize and enter lift attempts in your scoring system. Worst case scenario, your scoring system craps out on you. You have the cards there. That's your backup. Okay, so make sure that you're also using those cards, and you're not just using the computer system. You have to have those cards there. Every once in a while, projector goes out, computer goes out, power score glitches. You have your cards there also, so if you don't have to skip a beat. After bench press, you want to print and post the subtotals for each class on a wall for coaches and lifter to see, or distribute that in some other way. And I do have on here, don't start deadlift without posting the subtotals. Again, for right now, that's pretty lenient because everybody's still learning this whole process. But I would suggest after squat and bench, you have your main computer connected to a printer. You're going to print the subtotals out so everybody kind of knows where they stand as a team, and the lifters know where they stand as individuals, so they can say, hey, I might need to bump and deadlift and those type of things to place. And again, the nice thing about PowerScore, there's a button. You just click on print, and it'll print all that out for you. Here's the round system. We went over this in the rules clinic. We just want to touch base pretty quickly with this. I think we're probably pretty well versed on this at this point. But again, this is your line of lifters here. All right, let's say 5's the lightest load. They're going to go up. They're going to perform the lift. They're going to let the table know their next attempt. They're going to sign it. Remember, they have to sign it, okay? We almost ran into an issue this year at our state meet without a signature. Make sure the lifter initials or signs it, and they're going to go away for the next round, okay? All these lifters are done. You're going to resort the cards. You're going to click and resort power score. It takes one click of a button to do that, and then you start the next round and you go from there, okay? Make sure when the bar is loaded, as the chief judge, you're going to say bar's loaded when the bar is loaded to the correct weight. The lifter is going to have a minute to get on the platform and start their lift. Okay, this is big. If you don't adhere to this, you're going to be there all day. Okay, for these first few meets, definitely be a little lenient on this. But the more lax you are with this 1 minute, that meet's going to take a whole lot longer than you want it to. So make sure that you've got a stopwatch at the meet, or the meet director is doing this on their iPhone or something like that. But make sure you're taking care of this. Any questions on the round system? Again, I think we've hammered this pretty much on all the texts and emails and videos. But if you got any questions, let me know now. Cool. So that's it. You're repeating the round system. You're doing that for squat. You're doing it for bench press. After bench, you're going to print, post the subtotals prior to starting deadlift, and then you start deadlift, and then that's your meet, okay? Some things to think about. Are you doing lunch? If it's a long meet, are you going to do that? For our meet, we started at 10 at the state meet, and so we broke for lunch after squat, and then we ran through bench and deadlift right after. If you start early, like most meets that we're looking at, squat, then do bench, take a quick lunch break. I'd say 30 minutes, then go to deadlift, start your deadlift, and then the meet's over, okay? Okay, power score with multiple platforms. So like Coach McChristensen, this is what you're kind of asking about. I would suggest doing this, okay? And it might take a second to learn this at the beginning, but it's definitely worth your while. This is what we did at the state meet, and this is the reason we were able to get results out so quickly, was you've got all your platforms set up, and you've got every computer at these platforms loaded with power score. So each of these are its own separate meet. Okay, so the way to do this, and again, there's a tutorial on there on the advanced powerlifting playlist, or the advanced power score playlist, to show you how to do this. And again, it's nice that we have judges on here and coaches in case something happens at the meet. We should all be okay to fix it. And we'll go from there. But again, this software is really good. It saves every 5 seconds. And so you don't really skip a beat here. So you built your master meet. You distributed each platform into the computers. And then now these are their own separate meets. The way we did this at the state meet, and the way a lot of coaches do this, is after each round or flight, you're going to have a runner take these cards to the master computer, and you're going to have somebody input that into the master meet. When they're done with that, they're going to take those cards back to the table, and then you start your next round. Or if you have multiple flights, you do that during flight 1. When it's done, flight 2 is going, and then this flight 1 should be entered in the computer. You're going to take this back, and then you're going to take flight 2 over, and so you don't skip a beat. So flight 1's running, then you got flight 2 running, and there's constantly data being fed into this main computer. So it's not a bad idea to have runners for each table, or even maybe that's your table worker, take the flight 1 cards over to the master computer, whoever's inputting those in, put the data in, take it back to the table, and start the next round. Again, there's tutorials on how to do all that stuff in the Power Score Advanced playlist. But that's what I would suggest. You can do it with a USB drive where you can import everything. Again, I would just manually do it with the cards. It's a pretty quick process. That's what we did at our state meet, and it worked pretty well. So what that looks like on Power Score, the master meet will look like this. And so literally all you're putting in, you're not putting in each attempt, because that's going on at the platforms. You're just putting in their best total here. So this is, Coach, I got your, Coach Gonzalez, I got your Lovington and Portales meet here. And what he did is after each round, those cards went up to his wife who was importing the data. and she would put in their best attempts, and then the runner would take those cards back to the platform. So this is what that'll look like. Nice thing is here, the way we did at our state meet, we had the platforms separated by weight class. And so I would read off the 114 totals on squat to our data entry person. He'd put them in. I'd read 123, I'd read 132. He'd take that stack, take it back to the platform when it was done. Any questions on this piece? Okay, so your meet's done. In PowerScore, you're going to press on this standings button, and it's going to already have everything placed in there. Okay, you're going to have your individual placers here. Then you'll have your team standings on this tab. Now you can print this out, probably a good idea, so you can have some type of announcement, whether you're announcing placings or if you're announcing team winners, that's there for you. And again, this print button will print that out. I would also print out the detail. This would be a good idea to give to your coaches at the end of the meet. This has each lifter's best attempt and their total. And this is when you definitely want to print out, and you want to include this either in your awards packet or your medal ceremony or whatnot. Give this to your head coaches so that on the way back on the bus ride home, those coaches can distribute this to their kids, or at least talk about it and go over all this stuff. Plus it's record of the meet happening. So in case we post something and is there a discrepancy, this is your backup. This is everything that was entered in at the meet. So again, this is the detail button. You're going to press print. It'll print this out, and then you'll give these to the coaches at the end of the meet. So at the end of the meet, do you have awards? If you're doing those, if you're doing awards, are you doing it at the conclusion of your meet? Are you doing running awards like we did at the state meet? I've even seen where they pre-packaged awards because the kids had to get back. They gave it to the head coaches, and then we presented them on the bus. The one thing I would suggest is make sure you're printing those results at some point and including that in your packet or handing those to the head coach so that every coach has record of that. And so that in case there's a discrepancy later on, you have record of the meet there. And then the big thing here is on the cleanup, okay? So if you're tabulating results, everybody start pitching in and cleaning up, okay? Especially if you're having a meet in your gym, and if you're using the plywood and the stall mats and you know where you're storing them, what I would suggest is everybody that was participating in the meet, everybody take a piece, put it up, and then the meet should be completely clean by the time you're having your awards. Okay, so you don't have to sit there with your staff and do that after the fact. This takes really, really quick if you everybody pitch in. That's what I would suggest. If you want to just send everybody home and do it on your own, that's completely up to you too. But I would put that on your meet flyer and communicate that with the coaches that, hey, we're all going to pitch in and we're going to clean up after the meet. Okay, last piece, exporting your meet. So you're done. You got all your results. And that's a really quick button. There's a button on PowerScore that says prepare results for NMAA. You're going to click on that button. It'll save to your desktop, and you're just going to email that to myself. What I'll then do is I'll take that data, I'll sort it, and I'll do my best to get everything imported and posted the Wednesday after your meet. So all your results are due the Monday by 4 after your meet. I'll collect the data, and I'll get everything posted by Wednesday. Okay, and then that'll also be current standings, just like it was last year. That'll be found on the powerlifting website there. And again, I would get in a habit of checking that every Wednesday. I'll send a quick email or a text to the meet director that the results are posted, but get in the habit of checking that website often, okay? So because the meet schedule is updating regularly, coaches contact list is updating regularly, and then those current standings are going to update pretty regularly also. So I'll do my best to get those done by Wednesday following your meet. Okay.